afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor for me to be here. I would like to thank Dawn for inviting me. Now, I would like to share my personal understanding about China's India policy. Yeah, this is the outline of my presentation. I think, China and India, they established their diplomatic relationship in 1950s. I think since 1950, this relationship experienced 5 phases. Between 1950 to 1959, they were close and friendly to each other. They experienced even a honeymoon during the mid-1950s, and Hindi Chini Pai Pai was very popular on both sides. And since 1959, the tension arose, and it led to the border war in 1966, in 1962, and after the border war, actually, till 1988, there was almost no interactions between the two neighbors, although they resumed the ambassadorial relations in 1979. And after Rajiv Gandhi's visit to China in 1988, the normalization started. Of course, in 1998, there was a short break due to the Indian nuclear test. But in 2005, the two countries, they established a strategic partnership. And in my opinion, I think since then, this relationship has become more and more mature and stable. And before we look at China's India policy, I think we'd better define, how China defines the India's position in its general foreign policy. As you know, there are 4 pillars in the current China's foreign policy. They are the major powers, neighboring states, developing countries, and multilateral diplomacy. And there's a very popular, saying in Chinese. I translate it into English here. Major powers are the key. Surrounding areas are the first priority. Developing countries are the foundation. And the multilateral fora are the important stage. So if you look at India, actually, I think India has a place in each pillar. India is definitely a major power nowadays, and it's an important neighboring state to China, and it is one of the largest developing country, and it is also a very important player in the multilateral international institutions. And I think since the 1980s, China has been more and more based her foreign policies on the national interests. So before we examine China's policy towards India, I think it is a must to know how China defines her interests relating India. This is, according to the 2011 white paper of China's peaceful development, China defines its core interests as follows. They are, first is the state sovereignty, second is the national security, and then the territorial integrity and national reunification, and China's political system, and then social stability, and also, of course, the sustainable development. in my opinion, I think China's interests relating India are threefold. First of all, it is the security interests. As you know, first of all, India is critical to the peace and tranquility of China's southwest border area. We still have an unresolved border dispute, and India also has a very high impact on the border talks between China and Bhutan, and also India matters quite a lot to the stability of Tibet. As you know, India now is harboring over 100,000 exiled Tibetans, including the Dalai Lama and the so-called Tibetan government in exile. And also China is concerned of the spillover of a possible Indo-Pak conflict. As you know, China borders with the hotspot of Kashmir and is faced with the risk of nuclearization of the Indo-Pak conflict. And as China's security environment is worsening in the east, China is very much concerned of the risk of a possible anti-China bloc, including India, especially while India is increasing its interactions with countries like US, Japan, Vietnam, and Philippines, because these countries have problems with China. And of course, as more and more Chinese citizens are doing business, working, studying, or traveling in India, China should ensure the safety of the Chinese in India. The second aspect is the economic interest. As you know, now India is about the 10th trading partner of China, and it is also a major destination of China's overseas projects contracting. And since China has a strategy to develop its economically far behind hinterland, India is critical to the development of China's western region in general, and Yunnan's gateway strategy in particular. So that's why, last year, China and India jointly launched the BCIM economic corridor involving Bangladesh and also Myanmar. And since China nowadays is heavily dependent on imported energy, India is also critical to the safety of the slugs in the Indian Ocean and the Malacca Strait. And politically speaking, India is very important for China in terms of the solidarity and coordination of the BRICS, which we think that it will help to get a favorable position in our negotiation with the developed countries in restructuring the global economic and financial governance. And as we're still facing some pressure from the West on issues such as the human rights, climate change, and etc., we always actually can get support from the Indian side on these issues. And of course, we also still have the Taiwan issue. So the One China policy is the core interest of China. Of course, in this regard, India's record is not bad. And so, what is the China's India policy? According to the Chinese top leadership, China's strategic objectives is to have a friendly relations rather than a rivalry with India, because it is only in this case can China focus on its self-development and modernization. So according to our Premier Li Keqiang, when he visited India last year, he said that China is committed to the strategy of developing friendly relations with India, and India and China are natural partners of cooperation. We are not a threat to each other, nor we ever contain each other. Instead, we stand as each other's cooperation partner and development opportunity. So, as to the China's India policy, first I think China regards economic cooperation as a stabilizer of this relationship. Actually, China is working hard to expand its the bilateral trade with commitment to narrowing the trade gap by increasing China's investment in India and expand trade in services, which India is strong. And China also makes a lot of effort to facilitate the complementarity. And China is eager to improve the connectivity with India by launching the VCIM economic corridor, suggesting to connect China's westward opening up strategy with India's Look East policy. And very recently, China also invited India to join China's Maritime Silk Road project. And in 2011, China also established the strategic economic dialogue with India. And secondly, China attaches great significance to the trust building in order to achieve stable and friendly relations with India. These trust building measures include the CBMs in the border areas, military interactions, accommodating India's concerns, and reaching out to the Indian people. In terms of the military interactions, in spite of some interruptions, China has been firmly promoting the annual defense dialogue, exchanging visits by the defense ministers, joint exercises between two militaries, and the maritime cooperation of the Somalia, and exchanges between the young military officers and officials. And to build the mutual trust, China also made a lot of efforts to allay India's concerns, including sharing the hydrological data of the transborder rivers, commitment to a balanced trade, welcoming India's rise, supporting India's desire to play a bigger role in the UNSC, and taking a neutral stance on Kashmir. And also China is open to cooperation with India in Nepal and Myanmar. I also noticed that, especially in the past 1 year, the high-level officials from China, including our premier, the state councillor, our foreign minister, and ambassador to India, they published a lot of, many articles on the Indian leading newspapers. I think these efforts aim at a better understanding of China by the Indian people. So thirdly, I think in light of the difficulty to have an early resolution of the border dispute, and due to the occasional tensions rising on the LAC, China started to focus more on the difference management. in order to prevent small problems from upgrading to major problems and maintain the peace in the border areas, new mechanisms have been, for crisis management and preventive diplomacy have been set up. In 2012, we set up a new working mechanism dedicated to dealing with the border emergencies. And last year, we just reached a new agreement for the border defense cooperation, committed to no use force in case of the face-offs, no tailing patrols, and meetings between the regional military headquarters. And of course, China also attaches significance to the cooperation with India on global and regional issues, because there have been a lot of talks about China-India cooperation in the G20, in BRICS, and also, in the UN conference on climate change. I don't want to go in details in this regard. So now I would like to point some challenges facing China's India policy. I think first of all, it is the gap in the mutual perceptions. I think this is the major obstacle to the trust building between the two countries. As you know, China and India have different perceptions on who is the major threat. From the China's side, we think, our strategic focus is on the east. But for India, they think China is the major competitor. So this gap actually has led to India's complex feeling about China. On the one hand, they complain that China focused too much on U.S., Japan, and even the ASEAN countries, but neglect India. On the other hand, India actually they interpreted China's policy all India directed, like the China's military modernization, Sino-Pak friendship, and even China's presence in South Asia and the Indian Ocean. And of course, this perception gap also led to the different interpretations of the relationship. From the China side, we are always optimistic, but for the Indian side, they are a little bit pessimistic. And the second challenge, I think, it is the protracted border dispute. Actually, I think that there's a big imbalance of actual control. At present, the LAC is very much in favor of India. So I think their expectations are far from meeting with each other. So to have the border issue be solved on basis of mutual accommodation, I think it will be very difficult for them. And also, for the militaries, because of the protracted dispute, they have to be prepared for the worst. But for the public opinion, it seems for them they are not ready for the best. What I mean is that even though there was some progress between the two special representatives on the border negotiation, the public opinion is still far behind. And the last challenge is about the trade deficit.